Still, if there is any confusion, I'll just go through a very short revision of what a function is. So I'll just write here below. A function is defined in this way. First, you write the return type. You remember, you write the return type, then you write the name of the function, and inside this you have arguments. So argument number 1, argument number 2, and so on. Right? This is how a function is written, and within curly braces, there you write the body of the function. Do you remember? This is the way it is written. So return type, what is return type? Return type is after executing this function will return something. What is the type of data that it returns? Will it return int, or will it return char, or will it return string, or what will it return? That is to be written over here. Suppose after working it returns an int. So we have to write int here. Then name of the function that you write over here. That is your choice, whatever name you can give to your function. And then arguments, what the function requires for doing its execution, that you give over here. So if you are not conversant with functions, then you have to revise this thing a little about functions. This is about a little about functions. Just okay. Now we'll go back to this. So what I was saying is that our class definition can also hold definitions of functions. So I'll give you an example here. Suppose we write here float percentage. Okay. And inside this, we are calculating percentage and we are returning that percentage. So that percentage will be a floating point number, that is decimal number. So that is why the return type is float. And inside this we are returning. So return, what we are returning? We are returning the marks divided by 50, since the marks is out of 50, and we are multiplying it by 100. So that is how we calculate the percentage, that the marks obtained divided by total number of marks into 100. So that percentage we are returning. Right. So this is a function that returns the percentage that the student has scored. Now we can call this function by referring an object with it. So here, after all this, we can just call this function in this way. The object is s1 dot and the name of the function. You see in my editor, this dev C++, it is also giving some suggestions. So it is an intelligent editor, so it is giving suggestions. You can see the second one, float percentage, that I can select, so I don't have to type. So s1 dot percentage. So what s1 dot percentage does? It calculates the percentage of student s1. And what will it do after that? After that, it will return the percentage. And since it returns the percentage, we have to store the percentage in some variable. And what kind of variable will be that? That will be a floating point number. So we'll write float and whatever, say result. And in that, we will store the percentage that is calculated from this function, s1 dot percentage. So float result, here we are storing. And then we can show. We'll just say cout the percentage is what? Result. Right? I'll just put an endl in the front so that it goes to the next line. Yes. So that is our thing. So we'll just correct this. We have to write this. What we have to write? We have to write main. So if we don't write main, it will throw an error. So we have to write main. We have saved this program and we are compiling it. I hope everything is correct. Yes, everything is correct. There are no errors, no warnings. And now we'll run this, we'll execute this thing. So I'm executing. I hope you can see the screen. What is written on it? It is written enter a roll number for the student. Can you see it? So we are entering a roll number. So roll number is 5. And after that, enter the marks out of 50. Suppose we are entering 45. So we have entered it. So it says that roll number is 5 and marks is 45 and the percentage is 90. Is it correct? 90 is the percentage. Yes, because 45 out of 50 is 90%. So the percentage is 90. So in this way, we have calculated the percentage. Right? So I'll just run through it once again, our program, what we have done. What we have done is, inside our class declaration, we have, instead of just mentioning these data members, we have now taken a member function, and that member function has been defined within the class. And that member function can be called by using an object of the class. Just as we are referring to the data members by using the object of the class. In the same way, we can refer to the member function by referring with an object of the class. So we have created an object here, S1, that we have created earlier. Just as we are referring to marks and roll by this in this way, S1.roll and S1.marks. Similarly, we are also referring to the function. We are calling the function in the same way, S1.name of the function. So here there is a function call, and when there is a function call, it is getting called, and what the function is doing, it is calculating marks divided by 50 into 100, that is a percentage, and it is returning it. So when it is returning it, it is coming back over here again, and what it is returning, it is returning the percentage. What is the percentage? The percentage is a floating point number, that is a decimal number, and that we have to store in a variable, and that variable is a floating point type of variable, that is result. So there we are storing it, and then we are displaying that result to the user in this line. So quick questions on this. If you have any questions, still I have not explained what is public. I'll just go to it in a few minutes. Can you, if you have any questions regarding this part, you can just ask.
No, sir, this part is clear.
This part is clear. Okay. So now I'll make a few changes to this. Instead of public, I'll not write anything over here. And let's see what happens. I'll just remove this. And I'll try to compile it. Remember, we can compile it from here, going to the execute tab and clicking on compile. Similarly, we can compile it by just pressing the F9 button of the keyboard. So I am doing that. I am just pressing the F9 button. So when I press F9, see there are lots of errors. You can see this. There are lots of errors. I'll just try to see what is the error. See what is written. I think you cannot read it. If you can read it, it will be good. But I think you perhaps can't read it. So I'll just read it out. The error is int student role is private. It says that int student role is private, means the role data type, the role variable of student class is not public. It is private. So what is the problem if it is private? If it is private, then you cannot access it from outside the class. Look here, we are trying to access it. We have declared an object, and with the help of that object, we are trying to access it. But C++ compiler is saying that you can't do that. Why you can't do that? Because this role is not public. You have not declared it as public. Since you have not declared it as public, you cannot access it. This is what is known as data hiding. So we have discussed in the first class what is data hiding. It is an important concept of object-oriented programming language. This is data hiding. We are not allowing the external world to access our data members. So this is data hiding. Now the question is, if we don't allow the external world to access these data members, how can we set the roll number? How can we set the marks of the student? How can we specify the roll number and marks of the student from outside the class? The answer to this question is that in order to set the roll number or set the marks, we have to define some functions which are known as getter-setter functions. And these getter-setter functions have to be declared as public so that they can be accessed from outside the class. Now, I understand that whatever I'm saying is getting a bit bouncy for you. So I will just give you a demo. I'll just show you an example. Then you will be able to understand what I am saying. So to understand this example, I am just removing this part. I am just removing this part from here. This entire line of code from here. Right? So we have only student S1. Now, since these two are private, why they are private? Because we have not declared them as public. If we don't declare anything as public, it automatically becomes private. You can explicitly also write it. You can also write here private. But it is not necessary to write. If you don't write anything, it automatically becomes private. So in order to access these private members, now what you have to do is you have to declare some public member functions. What are those member functions? They are called getter and setter functions. Setter functions will set the roll number and marks, and getter functions will get the roll number and marks. I'll show you how. It is very simple. So for a setter function, since a setter function will not return anything, it will just set the roll number. So its return type will be void. Okay? And what will be the name of the function? You can name it anything you like, but the convention is you should write it this way. If you write it this way, anybody will be able to understand what it does. So I'll write it in the usual conventional style that is used in the industry. So I'm writing it this way. I'm writing it as set roll. Now, this name is not something that you have to follow. You can write anything, any name of your own. But if you write set roll, anybody who is reading your program will be able to understand what this function is supposed to do. Set roll means it is going to set the roll number. And just see how I am writing it. The first letter is small. And after that, when the next word comes, there is a capital. Now, this again is not compulsory. But this is the normal conventional style in industry. Whenever programmers are writing the names of functions, they are writing it in this way. This is called lower camel case. In this, the first letter is lowercase letter, and after that, each word has a starting of uppercase letters. So that if you follow this, if you practice it, it is very good. When you go to any industry, when you go to work, then it will be very useful for you. So void set roll, and inside that we will take an argument. Obviously, roll is int type, so we'll take an int type argument, something, anything, int r, and inside that, what we'll do? We'll just say roll is equal to r. So what we have done? We are taking an argument and that we are giving to roll. That value of whatever we are taking, whatever value we are taking, we are giving it to roll. And since this function is a member of this class, so from within this function, we can access this member, this data member. Okay? So this is how we are doing. Similarly for marks also, we can do the same way. Void, we can write set marks. And that will take a float m. You can take float m or n or anything, x, y, anything, but it should be float because you are setting a float. That is why. So inside this, you will write marks is equal to n. So whatever value you are taking here, you are assigning it to marks. This is called a setter function. So this is a setter function. This is also a setter function. So this will help me to set these things, right? So I go on over to here, and again I ask from the user, enter role, and I take this. So now I will take it. Previously I was doing s1.roll. Now I can't do that. What I will do now? What I will do now is I will take some R and some M as int and float within the main. And I will take input of R as roll number and as marks. What I will do? I will take C in M. After that, now this thing is very important. What I am doing, you see. Now I will write S1 dot set role, right? And what I will pass to it? I will pass R. Okay, and then I'll write set1 dot set marks, and to it what I will pass? I will pass M. So I have taken the roll number, stored it in R. I have taken the marks, stored it in M. Then I am passing R into this function. What will happen when I call this function? I am passing R to it. Suppose I have stored R as 20. So I am passing 20 here. So when this function is called, 20 will come over here, and that 20 will be assigned to roll. So now this roll number becomes 20. Directly I will not be able to assign it because this is now no longer public. This has become private. So now in order to assign it, I need a setter function, which is public, which can be accessed from outside. And using that, I will be able to set it. Okay. Now, just as we had done earlier, we can calculate the percentage. Okay. So how will calculate the percentage? Same way, S1 dot percentage. And S1 dot percentage will calculate the percentage because now S1 roll and S1 marks has been set by these two functions. And then we can output the result. We can say, and then roll is roll and marks is marks and percent is what? Percent is whatever we have got from here. So whatever we have got from here, that has returned a value which we have to store. So float result is equal to percentage. Whatever percentage we have stored in result, and that result we will show over here. Okay. Now this we can't do. We can't do show roll and show marks. Why? Because this roll and marks, these are all private things. So in order to show these things, roll and marks, we need two more functions which are called getter functions. Now I'll show you how to write getter functions. These are called setter functions. So I'll just write a comment over here. These are all setter functions. And now I'll show you how to write getter functions. So getter functions. How to write getter functions, you see. Now, suppose you want to get the roll number of the student. Now roll number is int. So this getter function for the roll number will have a return type of int. And I'll write the name of the function, get roll. Again, I'll repeat that it is not necessary to actually write this exactly this name. You can write any name. But since if you write this name, you can easily understand, and the person, whoever is reading your code, will be able to understand what this function is actually doing. So I am using that. So what this function is doing? This function is simply returning roll. So that's all. So this function, when it will be called, it will return roll. And this function will be able to access roll because this is a member function of this class. Similarly, for marks, we can write the same thing. We'll write float because marks is float, and we'll write get marks, right? And we'll do return marks. So we have got now our getter functions, which will return the values. So within here, instead of writing roll, what we'll do, we'll call, what we'll call? We'll call get roll. And instead of writing marks, what we'll do, we'll call get marks. That's what we'll do. So we'll save this program now and you just compile it. Hope everything is correct and it will run properly the first time. So we'll just compile it now. I am doing F9 and compiling. Okay, fine. So we are very happy because it has not given any error and there is no warning. So everything is correct. There is no typo error. So this function, this thing has been compiled properly. Now we'll see the output. So for seeing the output, we are pressing F10. So here the output comes. You'll be able to see it on your screen very soon. Right. So what you are able to see, it is saying enter roll. So we are entering a roll number set 25. Then it is telling enter marks. Suppose you are entering marks 40. So see, it is giving now roll number is 25, marks is 40, and percent is 80. Can you see this? Now, you see, you should appreciate this thing that we have declared our members, data members, role and marks as private. That cannot be accessed from outside directly. In order to access the private members, private data members, we have to write getter and setter functions within the public scope. So those have to be public. And using those getter and setter functions, we can access the data members. Okay? If we don't do that, then you have seen previously how we get an error. If we try to access private members from outside the class, we will get error. So this is a classic example of data hiding, how we are hiding our data. And of course, this is also an example of data encapsulation. How this is an example of data encapsulation? Because within this class, we have encapsulated, that is, we have included, what we have included? We have included the data members and we have also included all the function members. Right? So we have included all the data members and function members related to student inside a class. This is encapsulation. And how we are implementing data hiding? We are implementing data hiding by declaring this roll number and marks as private. We have not explicitly mentioned private, but if we are not mentioning anything, then by default, this becomes private. Instead of that, you can explicitly write private over here. That will also do. That is a good habit. Normally, you should do it. But even if you don't do it, then also it becomes private. So we'll just take a quick pause over here and take some questions if there are any questions. I think I have been able to explain to somewhat extent what is the role of public over here. Although this is not a complete explanation, I'll go on further and explain it in much more details. But before that, we'll take a quick pause and take a few questions from you. Yes.
So I also a private or the public member. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Dilkesh is speaking.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
So the percent function is also private or public?
No, it is public. You see, whatever we write beneath this public becomes public.
So the below
Right? So
the all
everything
the
is public.
so everything the below the public is public members.
Exactly, yes. Below private, these things are private, and just when we are writing public, then whatever is below this public becomes public. So from here to here it is private, then below this everything is public.
Okay.
Sir,
Any more questions?
sir, it is necessary to write the member functions under the class. We couldn't write it separately, sir.
Yes, you can write. Yes, you are very much correct.
Okay.
We can write. I'll just come to that in my next example, how we can write those things.
Okay. Okay.
Any more questions? Whatever I have just explained till now.
No, sir. Everything is clear.
Okay, very good. So now what you have learned is you have learned that you should not, by practice, declare your data members as public. That is a very bad practice to declare your data members as public. You should never do it. In industry, this is taken to be very bad practice. So all your data members should be private. And in order to access those data members, what you have to do? You have to write setter functions and getter functions. Setter functions to set those values and getter functions to access those values. And those setter and getter functions have to be written in public. So what I am showing you is the practices that are actually followed in industry. When you go for any interview or you face any, quiz or any kind of programming challenge, then these are the things that your employer or the person who is going to hire you is going to critically watch if you are conversant with these basic programming principles or not. Right? So you please try to practice these things from the very beginning. Now, the next thing that I am going to tell, what Vipul has rightly pointed out, is that can we write the definitions of these members, the member functions, outside the class? Yes, Vipul, you are very much correct. We can, of course, write the definitions of these members outside the class. I'll give you a short example how we can do that. So I am just, can I take this away from the screen? Have you taken notes? If you have taken notes, it's good. Otherwise, I'll just save this and I'll send it. I'll send it to your WhatsApp group.
Yes, sir.
So you
Yes,
can
sir.
take from there. Yes. So I have saved this now, and I am opening a new file, new source file. And in this new source file, I am just going to demonstrate to you what Vipul has asked. That is whether we can write the definitions of the member function outside the class or not. Yes, we can define the member functions within the class as well as outside the class. So I'll give you a short demonstration on that. We'll write the first line, hash include IOStream. Okay, have you downloaded this dev C++ software? All of you. Have you downloaded it?
No, sir. No, sir.
You have to download it today itself, because we are already gone past 2 units and today we are doing the 3rd unit. And there is only one more unit in this block, that is on constructors and destructors. So you must have your dev C++ installed in your system, and you must practice these things. And you go through your blocks and all the examples of those blocks and all the exercises of those blocks within one day, and then come back to the lecture on the day after that, so that you can benefit most from these lectures. Okay, so we'll go back to our code editor again, hash include IOStream using namespace std. And then I'll just write a class. I'll just keep it simple, that student class, same thing I'll write. And in that I will put in private. I'll put only one variable for now. And in public, I will just write its setter and getter functions. But I'll not write the complete definitions. Okay. So I'll write it in this way. How the setter function is written? Setter function is always void, and it is written with the name set role, and it takes an argument and it assigns the value to that value. So role is equal to R. That is the way of writing a setter function. So now we are not going to write this over here. We are not going to write the definition. We are just going to write this thing, declaration of the function. And then the getter function will be int get role, and this will be. So here you see we are not writing the definition of the function. Instead, we are just declaring the function. And we are declaring that in this class, there will be a function called setRole and there will be a function called getRole. These both will be public. setRole will take an argument and it will not return anything. getRole will not take any arguments and it will return an int type of variable, int type of data. Right. So the definitions of these functions, now I'll write it outside the class. How you will write this outside the class? When you are writing the definitions of the functions outside the class, this is the way to write. First, you write the return type. Suppose you are writing for setRole, then first you write the return type. You write void, then space, then name of the class, student. Then you write double colon. This double colon is called scope resolution operator. Now, this is a very dangerous word for now, scope resolution operator. So, for the present time, you just ignore the difficult terminology. Later on, you will understand it when you read in your logs. You will understand these things very well. So, it is called scope resolution operator. At this time, just think that we are writing 2 colons. So, void student 2 colons, and after that, we'll write the name of the function. The name of the function is setRole, and its argument is this. And here we are going to write the definition. What does it do? It does this. Whatever value we are passing to the function, it assigns that value to row. Right? Similarly, we can also define the next one. How we can define it? We'll first write the return type. What is the return type? The return type is int. Then we write the name of the class of whose member function this function is. So it is a member function of student class. So student we have to write, then this double colon, and after that we'll write the name of the function, getRole, and the arguments. So no arguments for this. Then we'll write the definition. What is going to do? It is just simply going to return. So this is how you are going to define. I'll show you after writing main. So next we are going to write the main function, int main. And inside this, we are going to first create an instance of the class, that is an object, this one. And what we are going to do, we'll ask the user to enter the roll number. Okay, we'll take an input of the roll number, enter. In order to save it, we require some variable, so we are taking that variable. So sin, that is R. Whatever input, we are storing it in R. And now we are calling the setRole s1 dot what? setRole, and we are passing R2. And just to see that everything is okay, we'll do an output, cout, and then the role is, and we'll call the function over here, s1 dot get. Right? So what will happen? Here setRole will set the roll number and getRole will return the roll number. Whatever roll number is returned, it will be shown over. So I'll just compile this and see everything is okay or not. But I'll save it. I'll save it as student2 student2.cpp. Okay, I have saved it and I'll try to compile it now. I hope there are no errors. So, okay, fine. There are no errors. Great. So, there are no errors. And now we have compiled it so that we have created the exe file If you have remembered from earlier classes, after compiling, what happens? After compiling, actually an obj file is formed, and then there is a linker that links, right? And then we get the exe file. Okay, so now this we are going to run F10. So now you can see it on your screen very shortly. Yes, enter roll. So we are entering some roll number, say 45. And you can see that it has returned it very successfully. The roll number is 45. Now you can see what is happening is we have written the definitions of the functions outside the class. So Vipul was asking that same thing, whether we can write the definitions of these functions outside the class. And yes, we can do that. We can write the definitions of the functions in two ways. We can define the functions from within the class, and we can also define the functions outside the class. While defining the functions within the class, you can use the examples that I had shown to you earlier. You will get that file. From that, you will see how you define the functions within the class. And for defining the functions outside the class, this is the syntax for you. So we'll just take a short pause. I will take some questions. If you have any questions, please ask.
Very good presentation, Mr.